All right, so it looks like we've got the signal from the back, which means it's time to start our forum. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our annual SU Election Forum. My name is John Stephen, current undergrad student and host at CJSW 90.9, and I will be your host and facilitator for today. At this forum, we will meet our candidate running to be VP Academic for the 2025-2026 academic year. Voting will take place from March 4th to 6th on your Student Center. Over the next hour, I'll be asking our candidate, Gabriela Dziegielewska, about who they are, what they stand for, and what they know about this position so far. Audience members who have questions may speak to our candidate after the forum is over from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. at the tables towards the back over there. Today, I also have an assistant with me who's going to help keep time. Jonathan up front has a nice little paddle. Each question we ask will have a time limit. Candidate, please keep your eyes open for Jonathan. If he holds up the green side, that means there are 30 seconds left in the question. If he holds up the red side, that means no more time. So, Gabriela, we're going to start off with round number one with before that, we're going to start off with a little introductions. Gabriela, are you ready? All right, Gabriela. To start, you have 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself and your campaign platform.
Thank you. My name's Gabriela. I am the current Faculty of Science representative, or one of them, and I'm running to be your next VP Academic. In my time as science rep, I have collaborated with the Faculty of Science to get measurable wins for students, such as getting more pass sessions and flexible deadlines. I have also stood up to the faculty against their proposed exceptional tuition increases and have secured a commitment for better student consultation moving forward. I have a lot of goals in my platform, but I think the biggest goal that I have that has the potential to most positively impact students in the short term is my academic rights campaign. Students overwhelmingly do not know what their academic rights are on campus, which means that they do not know when they get violated or broken. I think the first step to helping the student body become excellent self-advocates and become more engaged with the student issues that they are faced with on campus every single day is to make sure that they know what those issues are and who to turn to when they need help navigating them. I have a lot of other goals on my platform apart from that, but if students only take one thing away from my candidacy, I want them to know that I am their snitch line and their student advocate, and that I will always have their back.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Gabriela. We're going to move into round number one of our forum. We have position-based questions. Each question you will have 2 minutes to answer. We're going to start off with question number one. What do you believe is the biggest academic issue students currently face? How do you plan to address that issue as a priority?
So as I said in my intro, I think the biggest issue with students currently is the fact that they do not know what their academic rights are. So when their rights get broken, they won't know that they are being broken. They won't know to contact somebody or to reach out. Also, I don't know if anybody can hear me very well. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a few ideas on how we can run that academic rights campaign. So starting during orientation week when the SU puts on their own events to get to know the first years, tell them about the SU. I think I would like to include educational materials in the orientation campaign to first years to make sure that they are prepared for their first days of classes and know exactly what is allowed, what isn't allowed. I would like to work with faculty representatives to perhaps bring that information also to their faculty level orientation events that faculty reps are often involved with. Aside from that, I myself or with faculty reps again, I would like to do as many class talks as possible during the first week or two of classes in September to reach as many students as possible across various programs and years to once again inform them on what their academic rights are, what measures are available to them, and to always contact the VP Academic when they get broken or when they have any other concerns surrounding their academic rights.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. Fantastic. We're going to move on to question number two. The VP academic sits on many committees and supports students in different ways. Considering this busy schedule, it can be challenging to accomplish all of your platform goals. Walk us through the one goal you think is most important to serve students and how you're going to go about achieving this goal.
I think because the VP academic sits on a lot of kind of topically relevant committees, you're not really limited to one type of advocacy or advocating for one type of goal. It allows you to bring a lot of your issues directly through those various committees, whether that be related to teaching and learning or whether that be related to programs and curriculums. Um, I think perhaps a student bill of rights, or actually, let me change my answer. I think program evaluations for various programs would be a goal that would be good to bring to something like the calendar and curriculum committee of GFC. They program evaluations, as the name suggests, evaluate programs from time to time. It happens every few years. And I think one of the requirements is to have guiding questions by the department that will guide how the review goes and what kinds of things they evaluate. I would like to incorporate more student-friendly policies as requirements for those guiding questions so that when the reviews are happening, the faculty is looking at things that affect things like student mental well-being, how flexible their professors are, if they are offering, say, like free high-quality resources like OERs, and implementing it into the guidelines for the next set of requirements for program evaluations.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Moving on to question number 3. You just mentioned it at the end. Let's talk about OERs. What is an OER, and what is your current understanding of these resources? Please share your ideas on how the SU and U of C can better advocate for the adoption of these resources.
So OERs it stands for Open Educational Resources. They are high quality textbooks or textbook-like materials that are very specific to the course you are taking that are used in place of textbook. They are a great benefit to students because it's a free resource, it's a great quality resource. To push for the implementation of OERs, I think there's a few different strategies that can be taken. You can work with the Taylor Institute to kind of promote professional development opportunities that are available to professors that teach them about things like OERs, how to develop them and implement them in their courses. You can work through the bookstore to look at whether perhaps they can help in sourcing those types of materials for classes. You don't always have to make them yourselves. They are already versions of it that exist that can be adapted for classes. And I think there's also ways of working with individual faculties and understanding what the barriers are to implementing it more widely.
Fantastic. Thank you. Perfect. Moving on, question number 4. What do you think is the most important committee that the VPA sits on, whether at the SU or the university, and why?
It would definitely have to be a kind of a GFC committee. I think perhaps a more kind of obvious answer is the Teaching and Learning Committee because it's so relevant to the portfolio. However, I think, at least in my experience as a rep, I sat on TLC on the faculty level, and I found that a lot of the professors who were on it, or all of the professors who were on it, generally shared my kind of vision of teaching and learning that is very student friendly, of looking at more innovative ways of teaching and doing assessments. So I think the kind of perspectives are already imbued very well in that committee. Not to say that it's not important. I think the most important one would be GFC executive. It's one of the only times when the VP academic gets to have FaceTime with the president, who is the chair of that committee, and they work on setting the kind of priorities and strategic direction for GFC, which is the highest academic body of the university. I think having a student voice on that committee is extremely important So yeah, I think that's the most important one.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Moving on, question number 5. As VPA, you would regularly receive emails from fellow students about unfair in-course assessments or final exams. How would you guide a fellow student who needs assistance in resolving these kinds of issues?
So in the work that I do, like in my job that I do currently, casework is one of the things that I do very frequently with people reaching out on various issues, whether that be immigration concerns or needing help accessing social support programs. And what I found works really well for me and the people who reach out is making sure I take the time to understand what their concerns are and doing some of my own research to know what are the specifics around their issue, what's available, what kind of recourse is there, and laying it out kind of contextualized within their issue, um, laying out different options that are available, and just kind of talking with the person to understand what they're most comfortable with, what kind of path forward they would like to take. I've I've had great success with that method, and it's probably something that I would continue as VPA.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think it's important for students to know what options they have. So thank you very much for that. Moving on, question number 6. One of the primary functions of the SU is advocacy work. What is your understanding of the ways the SU advocates for students within the VPA portfolio?
I think advocacy is very heavily kind of incorporated into the VP academic portfolio. Perhaps um, it might depend on what your definition of advocacy is, but I think anytime you go to a committee and push for student issues and provide student perspectives and try to work on solutions that are beneficial for students. And anytime you meet with university administrators one-on-one or just outside of committees to push for things that are important to you and students, I think that is advocacy within the role. And from my understanding, it is something that is done very frequently and throughout the term. So yeah, my answer is it's, I think, a baseline part of the portfolio that I'm very excited to take part in.
Good to hear. Thank you very much. Moving on, question number 7. Advocating for students' needs would require the VPA to frequently hold opposing views with key university staff and administration they regularly work with. How do you intend to balance your working relationship with these key personnel while doing your best to advocate for students if you do get elected?
I think this is something that I've dealt with this past year as science rep because of the proposed tuition increases from the faculty. I've personally not found it to be particularly challenging just because I think if you come prepared and you know what you're talking about and you have the student's best interest at heart, ultimately that will always shine through. I think where perhaps some people fall short or have issues is when executives can't contain disagreements on one area that they deal with, and it spills over all of their relationships and every other issue that they deal with in their time. I think genuinely just kind of be an adult and know your things and act like you are engaging with your colleagues, which you are, and just make sure that you're a reasonable person. And I think it's okay. I've had many disagreements with my faculty admin this year, where I've very vocally opposed some of the things, and I've also had great collaboration with them, and I found that this has been very effective for me this year.
Amazing. Thank you, Gabriela, for that. Moving on, this is our final question for round number 1. Policies and procedures at the university are essential, but can be complicated for students to navigate. Where can important policy that impacts students be found, and how would you go about achieving change in a policy or procedure?
So academic policies or any policies are found on the university website. Academics policies specifically are found in the university calendar that's just available online. In terms of changing specific policies, I think it depends on what kind of policy generally. But broadly speaking, it would be going through various GFC committees along the way until it finally goes to General Faculty's Council to be voted on by everybody who sits on GFC, including students and faculty.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Gabriela. That is the end of our round number 1. We're going to move on to round number 2. We're going to give your speaking voice a rest. In front of you, you have a whiteboard and a marker. This is because our second round, this is our speed round. So there is a series of questions that I have in front of me. These are questions with an objective, factual answer. You will have 30 seconds to answer the question. Once you have finished, or once the 30 seconds is up, you'll hold your whiteboard up and we will see your answer. Are you ready to go? Perfect. All right, and yes, our production team has also asked that when you're writing, try to use as much of the whiteboard as possible, just so our viewers at home on YouTube can see. All right, question number 1 for the speed round. The APPC delegates certain powers and responsibilities to multiple subcommittees under its authority. 2 of these subcommittees serve to make and advise on decisions relevant to undergrad students. What are these 2 subcommittees? All right, looks like she's done early. Can you pull it up for YouTube? Yes, that is exactly right. The APS, or the Academic Program Subcommittee, and the CCS, or the Calendar and Curriculum Subcommittee. Moving on, question number 2. Who is the chair of the GFC? And for bonus points, who is the vice chair? All right, looks like she's done. If you could hold it up for YouTube as well. That is exactly right. Bonus points included. Ed McCauley, President of and Vice Chancellor of UC, and Sandra Davidson, Provost and VP Academic. Moving on, question number 3. Who is the lead SU student member on GFC, and what is their responsibility to SLC in this leadership? All right. That is exactly correct. She has written down the correct answer. The VP Academic is the lead SU student member on GFC, and their responsibility is the GFC caucus. Question number 4. What committee advises the GFC on students' educational experience? All right, so she has written down the GFC and TLC, and the correct answer is TLC, Teaching and Learning Committee. Question number 5. Who chairs GFC's Calendar and Curriculum Subcommittee, or CCS? Please name the positions. The names are not required, but if you can name them, bonus points for you. All right, so she has written down the registrar, Amy Dambrovitz, and academic co-chair, which is exactly the right answer. Question number 6. Which 3 events does the VPA host at the SU annually? All right, perfect. Finished just as the red paddle came up. She has written down TEA, URS, and orientation. 2 of the 3 are correct. TEA stands for Teaching Excellence Awards, URS, the Undergraduate Research Symposium, and the one you were missing was the Dean's Brunch. But very good otherwise. Oh, well, looks like that is the end of our speed round. We're going to go back into some in-depth positional questions. Once again, you will have 2 minutes to respond to these questions. Are you ready to go for round number 3? Round number 3 and our final round of the forum. Question number 1. One of the major issues academically from this past year has been the revisions to the appeals process. Can you outline why this has been such an issue for students, and what would you advocate for moving forward?
So the student appeals policy has been very important because whenever students are faced with academic misconduct, the appeals process is what they go through in order to determine whether they did actually commit academic misconduct and what kind of remediation there is available to them. It is one of the only ways available for students to get due process in these types of situations. So it's extremely important that it is handled with care and that the policies are thinking about what is fair to students. During this past year on GFC, one of the concerns with this policy suite was potential elimination of one of the levels of academic appeals available, the university tribunal. Thankfully, our wonderful SU executives were able to make sure that that didn't happen. However, there were other points as well that were of concern to students, such as whether students are able to bring new information to undergraduate or to the university tribunal, how much time they have, for example, to appeal. I would absolutely continue on pushing on this issue to make sure that the policies that are implemented are ones that think about the students and not just about whether there's academic or whether there's administrative burden for the university. It is a place that is meant to serve students and be a fair body that adjudicates on those students. So I will always advocate on those interests being represented and being the primary concern that guides the policy creation of the academic misconduct policy.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Gabriela. Question number 2. This is a bit of a lengthy one, so bear with me. The suspension of admission to certain arts programs has been a hot-button issue on campus for the past 6 months. The university says it is because these programs have low enrollment and haven't been updated in years. Some students, however, have expressed concerns with the way that this has been implemented, from the justification to why it happened, to the way it was communicated and rolled out. If this type of situation happens again, what steps would you take to balance the interests of high-quality education with ensuring students can access many forms of education?
Thank you. So I think this whole thing has been a very big topic at the Students' Union, and I don't necessarily agree. I don't agree with how it's been handled by the university, absolutely. I think when the university itself won't step up to making sure that they are communicating properly, it becomes our job to make sure that the students we represent know about what is going on in their faculties. So if this were to happen again, I would engage in aggressive reach out to students, like literally get in front of their faces to make sure that they know what's going on in their programs, they know what's going on in their faculty. And if the faculty is not willing to have student consultations, we will force them onto the faculty, whether that's an emailing campaign, whatever. I think I disagree with the premise of having to suspend programs for, say, curriculum renewal or for curriculum renewal. There's been many programs at this university that have undergone massive changes, even in the Faculty of Science. The Earth and Energy and Environment faculty is a new one or department. It's a new one. It underwent massive changes over the past few years, and they never had to suspend their geophysics programs, for example. I don't know why Faculty of Arts wouldn't be able to review their programs and do curriculum renewal while still allowing students to come into the program, just as other faculties or other programs have done as well. I will keep pushing for this to be done transparently and involve students every step of the way. And yeah.
Fantastic, Gabriela. Thank you for your answer. Moving on, question number 3. Course availability and offerings continue to be a major issue each year, with the current provincial funding model sidelining specific courses needed to graduate. What changes could be made on campus? Oh, my apologies. What changes could be made on campus access to courses during this time of budget cuts?
I think there's obviously limitations that are beyond my scope. I don't control the university budget and I can't tell them how to spend their money. But I think one of the easiest ways to make sure that courses that are needed continue being offered is by offering online options, by having online sections of classes, which just kind of gets at hybrid learning. Those classes need to be prioritized. If students need them to graduate, they need them to graduate. I think there's probably different ways that you can go about implementing solutions to this. But I think hybrid learning is a perfect opportunity, or it presents a perfect opportunity to start implementing hybrid learning more broadly and offering more online sections of classes, as well as looking at the kind of curriculum process at each faculty to understand whether the way that current programs are structured is serving our students, and if it's setting them up to graduate on time with the knowledge that is required of them.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Moving on, we have question number 4. Oftentimes, the VP academic portfolio will have competing priorities and will have to choose which campaign promises to prioritize. The reality is that, as with any position that works with several committees, there are times to take a stand on an issue and times where it is necessary to move on. How do you decide which priorities are the former and which priorities are the latter?
Thank you. I think that when issues come to committees that are paramount to student experience on campus and their quality of education, I would really try to make sure that I never have to step away from advocating for issues that really, really matter. I am not really one to take no for an answer. I've been very persistent this year with my faculty, and it's what's led me to getting the wins that I have. I generally think that, if kind of like one door closes, another one opens, maybe it's not something that you can advocate through the committee. Maybe it's something that you deal with outside of the committee or find a different way of advocating for. But I certainly don't want to drop pressing issues that are important to students. Yeah. I think that's my answer.
Amazing. Well, perfect. Thank you very much, Gabriela. We're going to move on to question number 5, the second to last question in this round. This portfolio has the most committee requirements, meaning it has the most opportunities to build and strengthen good working relationships within the U of C outside the student body. How do you focus on relationship building to both maintain existing relationships and improve them for the next VP academic and the SU as a whole?
I think fundamentally, if it is obvious to everybody that you work with that you care about students and that's why you're advocating for them, if you come prepared, if you are a reasonable person, as in you don't have tantrums in committees, then generally, even if you disagree, I think you will have a good relationship with the people that you're working with, and they will respect you as a person and your position. I have, as I've said, I've had some competing priorities with the administrators this year. There was conflict between us as reps and them, and we were able to navigate this and still achieve what we wanted to achieve by making sure that despite disagreements, we are remaining in, God, what's the word I'm thinking about? We remain committed to students, and that's what we communicate. We only advocate for students' best interests. It's not a whim of somebody who's, capricious. It is genuinely what is best for students, and that is the voice that we represent as elected officials. Just be normal, be an adult, and make sure that your priorities are straight. And I think it works out in the end. It's worked out for me so far. If it doesn't with the VPA portfolio, I'm open at looking at how I can change my perspective or approach on this issue.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. I think being normal is perfect advice for anything. Moving on, we'll have our final question of round number 3. Sorry. We'll have a question more targeted towards your platform. In your platform, you state you will pressure the university to fulfill its promise to comprehensively review academic advising offices. Please explain what this promise was about, why this review was necessary for undergrad students, and how you plan to apply this pressure.
Sure. So the university has committed to reviewing academic advising as part of their academic innovations plan, which is part of their larger strategy. The reason why I have this goal on my platform is because it feels like year after year, students see the same issues popping up in their faculties, and having issues with academic advising is certainly one that I've heard over and over again since I started across different faculties. In my role as VP Academic, I think my role would be to make sure that the university is following through on this. It's something that they committed to. It's something that the Board of Governors has passed. I would do that by keeping pressure on administration, making sure I get regular updates, and making sure that students also have a voice at the table. They know what issues they have with advising. They would be a great resource at helping to guide the conversation. Academic advising is such a crucial part of students' degrees. It will interact with your degree progression. It will, that's the main one. It's really important for your degree progression. And I feel like often we hear stories from students that they were, not properly advised, or they could even get into advising in the first place. And I think since we see that issue pop up year after year, it means that the university is not able to effectively identify what the root cause or what the root problem of academic advising is. I think a comprehensive review of academic advising would allow us to take a look at exactly what the issues are in advising and look at what are the correct solutions to fix it, so that students' experience is as smooth as can be within their programs.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Gabriela. Appreciate your time. Before we wrap up, we just have a few more things to get through. We have just one bonus question, as well as you'll have time to make one final pitch. So our last bonus question. Your time at UofC has hopefully taught you a lot of lessons, and the SU strives to be a place of continual learning. What lessons that you've learned about yourself at UofC are you hoping to bring to the SU, and what are you hoping to learn from the SU should you be elected?
So throughout my degree, particularly the first few years of it, I never had the capacity to pay attention to what's going on in campus politics. I was really caught up with labs and schoolwork and everything else I had to do. And that's this position that a lot of students are in currently. When you're in that place, you're just hoping that the people who are there to advocate for you genuinely care about what goes on with students and that they have your back and they're good advocates. This is something that I will bring with me. I will try to make sure, or I will make sure that I will be present with the student body. I will get in their face and tell them about the things that they need to know, and advocate for them as hard as I can, knowing that a lot of students just don't have the capacity to get involved in ways that they might want to. In terms of learning from my experience, I think it will build on my experience this year as science rep, but it's been a great lesson in how to advocate, how to navigate different personalities and competing priorities, and to get really effective at balancing that while pushing your own goals. So I hope I'll just continue to get better at that.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Gabriela. All right, our final thing we'll ask from you today, you will have 1 minute to make your final pitch to the student body. Tell us, why should students vote for you?
So I think the VP academic position has great potential for being engaged and communicative with the student body, as well as for imbuing political imagination into the role in perhaps ways that haven't been done before. For example, I think something as simple as running our GFC caucus as if it's a genuine caucus and forming relationships with professors on General Faculty's Council will help us get votes in GFC and get major wins for students. If I'm elected as VPA, I will take the experience and the skills that I've gained over the past year and take them beyond just the Faculty of Science and advocate for and fight for and represent to the best of my ability all students on campus as best as I can.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gabriela. Everyone, please put your hands together for your candidate, Gabriela Dziegielewska. All right, I'd like to thank everyone here for coming. I'd like to thank those watching from home on YouTube. Just a reminder to everyone to please vote from March 4th to 6th online on your Student Center. These students will be representing you next year, so please ensure you are letting your voice be heard. If you have any questions for our candidate, please address them at the back tables where they will be sitting, or you can reach out to them. Candidate platforms and information are available on the SU website. Please join us here tomorrow at 12 o'clock in the same location for our SU Presidential Forum. Thank you very much, and have a good Thursday.